recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, JArrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Merry Christmas, Connie. How are you doing today? Glad to be here today. Grateful to be here today. We had to pump the brakes last week, didn't we? Had a little, actually had a very serious situation around here, but it feels like that was a lifetime ago, but only a few days ago. Didn't have power around here up in hillbilly land, like you like to say, but we're up fully functioning with Wi-Fi and power and food on the table and running water and all that good stuff, Conrad. But Merry Christmas to you, pal. We are on the home stretch into the big day.
We are, man. This is our last episode before Christmas. We hope you guys have a fantastic Christmas. I know we're supposed to say happy holidays, but growing up in Alabama and Tennessee, we still say Merry Christmas. You did have a pretty scary situation, man. Those tornadoes popped up out of nowhere. A lot of your community without power for days. You wound up without power for an extended period of time, not quite days. Glad that you're up and running again. And man, it feels like there's been 1,000,002 rumors in the wrestling landscape since we last hooked up. But unfortunately, it's no rumor. It's a sad truth. You lost a great friend since we last saw each other, Mr. Frank Wycheck, one of the all-time great Tennessee Titans, and a big part of the early days of TNA. What can you tell us about Mr. Wycheck?
Oh man, as we're recording this, folks, it drops on that's the 19th, December the 19th. We're recording this on Sunday afternoon. I'm actually watching my beloved Tennessee Titans play the Houston Texans, and today they have a number 89 Frank Wycheck decal on the back of the helmets. And that news, well, I guess to kind of tie both the stories together. The storm hit last Saturday. It was Conrad. It was so bizarre. I went to Cody's wrestling tournament Saturday morning and all into Saturday afternoon. And when it was over, Karen and Cody went their way, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go to the gym, and we'll come back home and eat dinner and all that kind of stuff." But I was at the gym, and I started getting these texts and said, "Hey, man, are you in town?" And these are some people that are living in Nashville and south of Nashville, and some from actually out of town. And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm at the gym. Oh man, be careful of the bad weather." And I wasn't watching it. I knew that they were coming because I was supposed to ring for the Salvation Army last Saturday night, Connie, and they called, or we texted and communicated and said, "Hey, we're going to push that a week or two and figure something out. There's some bad storms that are supposed to hit between 3 and 7. So we, at this time, we got enough time. Let's call it off." So we called it off. Anyway, it was just kind of raining a little bit, but anyway, I was at the gym, and the guy walked around and said, "If you don't leave now, then," and we got like 15 minutes. Then when the storm gets close, or we lose power, you got all getting the locker room. Sure enough, Conrad, I stayed on the elliptical and the lights went out, and I said, "I think that's my cue to go ahead and get in the locker room." So there's about 8 or 9 of us got in there, and the storm passed. Reason I say this, so we were out with power. I came home. You start hearing the stories. I think over 150 telephone poles in the Hendersonville area. Now, I think there were 6 lives lost in the Middle Tennessee area, but in the Hendersonville area, it was bizarre. Almost no homes that were damaged, but businesses were demolished. It went straight up Main Street. So Sunday morning, me, Karen, and Codes got up, and we're going to figure out what are we going to do to eat. And Cody said, "Hey, let's go to Waffle House." So as we went from one plate to the next, and then all of a sudden there's a line, and we sit down and go to a Waffle House, Conrad, and that's when the text started coming in about Frank. And man, it hit me. I guess in a lot of ways, I can't say that I was shocked, but it did. It really surprised me. Frank had, and he would have told you this. He lived a very blessed life, very grateful life, but he lived a tough life. He literally, in my opinion, gave his life to the sport he loved, football. a guy who retired at 32 years of age.
Wow.
But yeah, I know, Conrad. He retired at 32 because of concussions, and I think he was 5th on the all-time catch list as tight ends. I mean, he was, just a player's player. But I'll never forget my great times with Frank. We met early when the Titans moved to Nashville. We became buds. He would get me some Titans tickets, and of course, I'd get him to wrestling or wherever that. And then we just became closer and closer and closer. And then when Frank retired, he became on the morning radio show, and it was for many years red hot. 104.5 The Zone. Kevin Ingram, Mark Howard, and Frank Wycheck. That was a real staple in this community. I used to call in all the time, have fun, but I listened to it all the time. And me and Frank just had running jokes and gags. And obviously, you just said how it ties into wrestling. In the Nashville community, we did Slammiversary 6 5. The one that was at Miss Auditorium in 2007. And the quote, and I tell it kind of often for new people when they come to shows backstage, whether they're advertisers or friends of family, or, hey, is this the first time you've ever been here? And then they get to talking. If you get into conversations, they'll like say, that ain't easy. And I'll say, I always kind of will tell a Frank story, because Frank, all pro, played in Super Bowl, played football at the highest level. So a professional athlete, and a very, very good one. And he said that he's never been as exhausted in his entire athletic career than he was when he got done with the wrestling match. So, it's a combination of nerves, and, what we do is different than sport. So I'm not putting it on par, but, it was different. He had so much respect for the business. I think a lot of his sports buddies would always kind of gig him and I don't know, poke fun at him for his real love of professional wrestling. But man, oh man, he had gone through some tough times, tough time in his life, but he had relocated to Chattanooga with his girls and their kids and families and all that. So yeah, man, it's a real tragedy, but life, only 52 years old. I know. I mean, I think that's, he was younger than me. So I always used to, he would bug me about, oh, you're a lot older than me and this and that. And he said, I got to take it easy on you, because we talked about challenges in basketball and sporting events and all kind of stuff. But no, gone too soon. I'll just say that. I'll miss Frank. I'll miss the silly texts and the chats and the silliness and everything that he kind of brought to life, and his deep affection for what we do. He loved his professional wrestling in so many ways.
Man, thoughts and prayers for his whole family. 52 is just way, way, way too young. And speaking of too young, all the Von Erich boys were way too young. The Iron Claw opens this weekend. As far as I can tell, they're not showing it in Huntsville. I've got to go to a Decatur theater. So
yeah, your wife's down there in Huntsville, Alabama, not even showing a damn movie. What's wrong with y'all down there?
What movie theaters is it showing in Hendersonville?
Oh, probably Indian Lake, streets of Indian Lake.
It's not. This A24 thing, it's weird though, because I've got an AMC theater right beside me, and it doesn't like they're getting the Iron Claw this week. So I'm going to have to make a trip to see it, but I'm excited to see it. And I was equally excited to tune in to Rampage this past Friday night. And in the first match, I hear Stranglehold, and I was like, wait, what? Shout out to Tony Khan, the ultimate wrestling fan he is, not only bringing Ross and Marshall in, two very great guys we were fortunate enough to have at Ric Flair's last match, along with their dad, Kevin, and introducing them using Stranglehold on TV. Dude, that was fantastic. In Texas, the Von Erichs, I'm sure you got to see the guys. When's the last time you even saw Kevin?
Well, wow, saw Kevin. Wait, Ric Flair's last match, the boys were there.
But Kevin wasn't.
Yeah, but wasn't. So last time I saw, gosh, Conrad, I don't know, but I was running around backstage Wednesday doing, just say, my day job, my production, a little production work, a little international stuff. And kind of late in the evening, I had been real busy, and I'm sure they had too. But anyway, from a long distance down the hall, I was about to go one way, and Karen was with me, and I said, "Come here, honey." Anyway, so we walked down the hall, and I came around the corner and kind of came up on Kevin, and he turned around and looked at me, and I said, "Kevin, I mean, we just laughed and cut up. You know what? We didn't even discuss the last time we saw each other. That's definitely the business for you." But it was great to see him and the boys. Me and the boys chatted it up, and anyhow, we had fun. Those guys are charismatic, like their dad and their uncles. But it's very interesting to hear kind of the feedback on the movie, and I think, as Marcus, our producer, has said, that some people get ruffled feathers because they've taken artistic liberties. Conrad, I think you would know how to say this better than me, but yes, there's some artistic liberties, and I guess it's not. I don't say not factual, but I think timelines are probably a little off, and quite a few things are omitted, and that's just it's art. It's subjective.
Here's what it is. It's a function of time. Respectfully. Yeah. We're going to be talking about some of the craziest gimmick matches in TNA history. And our show, where we'll cover about half of those matches, will probably be longer than the runtime of the Von Erichs and in the movie. And I'm just saying, if you were to really sit down and try to tell the life story of the Von Erichs, man, it would have to be like a series, not a movie, but it would have to be like a 7-season series in order to really do it justice. And there's just not time to do that in roughly 2 hours. So I know that timeline wise, there are going to be some inaccuracies, but again, to get it right and tell the full story, can you really do that in a 2-hour movie? I don't think you can.
You can't. So that's what I'm saying is and it is a tragic story in so many ways, but not in all ways. So the fact that it's a Zac Efron mainstream, big major release, and I mean, we, like you just said, we could probably take bits and pieces when you think of the legacy of the Von Erich family in Texas, specifically Dallas, and Channel 11 television and Texas Stadium. I guess it's almost common now. Professional wrestling is in stadium, and it has through the years. And I know Comiskey and Shea Stadium with San Martino and Zabisco. I mean, we could go on, but Flair and Kerry, gosh, when you see that film, how old Kerry was against Flair, it's truly legendary how hot the Von Erich WCCW business was in the early 80s. It's just unbelievable. I got to be out there in the late 80s, but man, it was super hot in that early to mid 80s.
Well, I'll tell you what's super hot right now, and that's mine and your love with Kudo.
Oh boy.
Get your popcorn ready, boys and girls. We're going to be talking about some of the craziest matches in TNA history, but I also want to give you a little pro tip. If you're on the hunt for a new guilt-free snack, Kudo is the official protein popcorn of the UFC and my world. Kudo's popcorn revolutionized the cooking method, which allowed each bag of popcorn to have 10 grams of whey protein isolate in every bag, and yet somehow it still tastes absolutely delicious. Yes, you heard me right. The Last Outlaw loves this popcorn because he's getting 10 grams of protein and it tastes great. But there's 10 whole grams of protein in every single bag. This is the snacking revolution that's taking the MMA world by storm. Michael Chandler and Robbie Lawler and Bruce Buffer, hell, even Dana White is endorsing it because it's the real deal. And right now, for a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off their entire order with the code MYWORLD at kudosnacks.com. By the way, there's multiple flavors to choose from. They got garlic parmesan. My wife likes that one. They got salty sweet kettle corn. She really likes that one. But my favorite, it's the white cheddar. All three taste incredible, and they make healthy snacking something you'll actually enjoy. If you're hitting the gym, maybe you're going for a long hike, or maybe you're just looking to eat healthier, you should almost certainly be taking whey protein to help boost those muscle proteins and at the same time promote that growth of lean muscle mass. There's so many reasons to make Kudo popcorn your new go-to snack. First of all, it's gluten-free. Secondly, it's preservative-free. Third, it's 100% whole grain. Fourth, it's keto-friendly. Fifth, it's only got 70 calories per cup. And oh, did I mention it's made right here in the US of A? Other possible benefits including, how about helping with weight loss and lowering your cholesterol? One bite, I'm telling you, and Kudo popcorn will become your new go-to healthy snack. I think we've talked about it here before on the show. My wife is getting ready for a fitness competition. She's being very particular about her diet, but she knows she needs that protein. This checks all the boxes for her. You're going to love it. I'm telling you, it's replaced my favorite popcorn. It was another white cheddar. Why not eat the white cheddar that has the protein? Come on. Do good for you and taste good too. Sign me up. You'll be amazed how Kudo popcorn has somehow made your favorite healthy snack even tastier and healthier. And for a limited time, our listeners can get an exclusive 25% discount. Just use that code MyWorld at kudosnacks.com. That's 20% off with the code MyWorld at KUDO snacks.com. Save some money and support the official protein popcorn of the UFC and get popped. That's KUDO snacks.com. Jeff, you tried it recently. What'd you think of the popcorn? Kudos.
I just referenced earlier, last weekend we went to a wrestling tournament. Yesterday we went to a wrestling tournament. And so, you know, it's families. You're there from 7:30 in the morning till, I think we didn't leave there yesterday, till like 3 or 4. But first weekend, for whatever reason, me and Karen, we didn't pack accordingly. We packed some, but not enough. Yesterday, you know how I am, Conrad. I had game planned. And so there was a dad there that said, you know, Jeff, I kind of admired you. You won't sit still, but boy, you'll sit down and get your food in. And you were there and back to Chick-fil-A to get your grilled chicken nuggets in about 20 minutes and this and that. But he saw me eat the popcorn, and God, I didn't know white cheddar was your favorite. That's my favorite. But the dad got to asking, and I said, hey, I don't. He goes, well, we got into a deep, granular conversation, but the whole top line of it is, he said, I've tried to do this and that. And I said, hey, man, at the end of the day, it's a lifestyle change. So you can't just kind of saying, hey, I'm going to kind of change the way I'm eating my breakfast or maybe the 3 meals. The snacks got to be healthy. You got to focus on this, this, and this. And I told him, I said, this popcorn, I told him straight up, it's podcast connected, but man, now that I know this is here, I am a popcorn guy. I might not be a movie guy, but I am a popcorn guy, and white cheddar it's really good. But no, it is a, you know, you hear the word empty calories. Like, what are you doing? You know, what do you do now? There's a reason to eat popcorn.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to say it that way, but there is a reason to eat popcorn. So kudosnacks.com, code word MyWorld, folks. It is delicious popcorn, and you health-minded folks, like I think a lot of folks are that listen to MyWorld, it is an absolute no-brainer. And if you're thinking, oh man, weigh on popcorn, that's got to have aftertaste. I don't like this. I'm telling you, try it, and you will absolutely be a Kudo lover.
Protein in your popcorn. Make it happen. Kudo Snacks. That's KUDO snacks.com. And use our promo code MyWorld. Save yourself 25%.
That's it.
So listen, man, there's lots of other news and notes in wrestling. Your boy AJ Styles came back on SmackDown looking bigger and better than ever. It looks like he's going to be off to the races with LA Knight. Unfortunately, friend of the show, Charlotte Flair, is going to be out for 9 months. Looks like she's going to miss WrestleMania season with a knee injury. So thoughts and prayers for her. We're pulling for her, and can't wait to see what they do on the return and the rebound. She always comes back better than ever. I'm sure this will be no exception.
Tough.
And pretty successful Ring of Honor show over the weekend. What an incredible value at watchroh.com. You got to see counting the pre-show, a 5-hour show for $10. They got a lot of great content over there at watchroh.com. You know me, man. I was a sucker for that Vikingo Black Taurus match. Black Taurus is my dude.
I know you love him. I thought of you when, go ahead.
Underrated performer, an incredible match. You'll see some things in there you've never seen before. The tribute to Jay Briscoe with that incredible brawl all over the place. And Dax getting the attention of the front row, whether they wanted to pay attention or not. It was a really fun show. And if you've been keeping up with independent wrestling and like the future of professional wrestling, you've at least heard the name Billy Starks. And to know that this is a girl who was wrestling for GCW underage and making a name on the independents. And now I think barely 19 years old and main eventing against Athena. Listen, if you really like wrestling and you really like matches, you don't have to know who all the characters are or all the stories are. You got your money's worth on that Friday night show. And man, Rampage, I think, was a sleeper episode. I've never seen a bunch of stuff that I saw in there before. Like Vikingo is from Mars or something. And it was a strong weekend for AEW and WWE. It was a fun, I enjoyed watching what felt like a sleeper weekend of great wrestling.
And you know me, I'm gonna always dive into to the business side of it. But the Rampage, did you see the 10-man tag that closed the show out?
It was crazy, wasn't it?
And this is something that, you know, Conrad, I mean, I don't think, well, yeah, I'm sure somebody will accuse me. Oh, JArrett's old school. You hear the word. I think a lot of times he's a carny, he's old school, all that. That match is it's the, I was gonna say, the continued evolution. Early days of TNA, we had the X Division 6-packs or 4-ways and all that. That match was, it just really personified that. I just think there's excellent action. Now, sign me up for a Gary Coleman, Moolah, Beetlejuice guitar shot. I think it's, I love a little bit of everything. I think that's what makes a fantastic hot show, is that you have to have a little something for everything. If you have 7 heavyweight in a match or 7 heavyweight matches in a row, and we're going to get into a bunch of pole matches in here, and you're thinking, how the hell? Well, no, we're going to take in 8, 9, 10 years of TNA. But where I was going with that, Conrad, what a on sale weekend we had. 8 Canadian shows went on sale. Cannot wait to get out to Vancouver. But I think you've heard of that domain called RickFlairsLastMatch.com.
I have, yes.
And I think Rumor in Union says that. But no, old Stinger. How about that? His
11,000 tickets on day one.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Greensboro, here we come. Tickets on sale now, AEWTIX.com. A big campaigning on JR show. I'm going to do it here too.
Okay, what's that?
I want to hear JR and Tony Schiavone call Sting's last match.
Sure.
You think about all the iconic moments in Sting's career that JR called early and that Tony Schiavone has called, you know, through the whole WCW run and certainly through the AEW run. I don't know, man, having those guys together on the call, because that first Clash of the Champions is one of the first times they work together as well. And to have, you know, Sting and Flair back together in Greensboro, in the same building, in the same town, with the same guys who were on that call back then, and it was one of their first times. I think it would be an awesome touch, and I hope that's the call that Tony Khan makes. But Ric Flair's last match, man, it's going to be a pretty big damn deal. We don't even know the match. We don't know the opponent.
You just said Ric Flair's last match. Did you just say Ric Flair or Sting's last match?
I thought it was Sting, but let me say this. I was getting to, you and I received, they didn't know you at the time, but we received a lot of criticism for not immediately announcing the opponent for Ric Flair's last match. Yet they announced it was Sting's last match. No opponent was announced, and 11,000 tickets were sold. So maybe you don't always have to announce the last match.
Well, who'd have thunk of that? Just, but you know what? It's very cool. On social media, we still call it Twitter, but X. Things have been popping up. Stinger, I call it his hops. The Sting, he did that dive over on Rick Rude. There's one from one ring to another. Just kind of the high spots that have been showing up. And, you know, it gets you going down the memory lane. I didn't realize JR and Tony, they called the 45-minute draw.
Yeah. Bob Caudle was the third guy there, but those two guys, I think that's one of the first times they did it together. Remember, the timeline lines up where that's when they're buying out Watts.
Wow. That's interesting. I mean, that's, when you think about all the ins and outs, and I don't know how you say that. Just, I think the definition of luck is also grace, but the opportunity kind of just sitting there. Who would have thought? How many years ago is that, Conrad? So 80, 23, 40. How many years? No, 30.
35 right now. It'll be 34 when it happened. I mean, 36 when it happens.
36 years ago. If you'd have said, because that was, I had just been in the business not long, but I do remember it was a highlight. I mean, it was really, really cool. Remember, Sting had been in our territory like, what, 18, about 18 months before that, 18, 19, 24 months before that, anyway, and he was setting the world on fire. So didn't realize that. But no, I'm excited. I am really, as the old mentality, you give them something concise and what they want to see. You don't have to give them anything other than it's Sting's last match.
Yes.
I mean, that's it.
That's the crazy gimmick, calling it Sting's last match.
So I'm happy. No, I am very, me and Sting got a long history, WCW, TNA, and a little bit in AEW, but I'm very, very happy for my man to be going out that way. That's going to be a very, very special night.
I'd love to see him rappel down from the ceiling in Greensboro, and as soon as he gets to the bottom, you clobber his ass with a guitar, cover him 1, 2, 3, then just throw it out of there.
Well, I think I just have to say next, and then
kill Pop again. Second time. And this time Lethal stops you. And then you guys have a match. And Jay Lethal leaves as the champ. It's Bash at the Beach 2000 all over again. Listen, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about crazy gimmick matches. But before we do, I think we should at least acknowledge that the old hapless Bengals somehow, some way managed to steal an overtime win from the Vikings. The Raiders beat the Chargers so bad they fired the coach at halftime. Bill Belichick and the Patriots are parting ways, and I have it on good authority. He's going to be an analyst under Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa next year. Of course, the Lions ran up the score on the Broncos after they were trying to troll Russell Wilson, playing a bunch of Future songs. Man, football has just been absolutely crazy, including a big blowout that the Dolphins are just taking the Jets to the woodshed right now. But the bowl games are starting to creep in, and I'll have to admit I've been distracted thinking about Alabama, Michigan, and the last time they played in postseason play like this. Sean Alexander was on the Alabama side. That's how long ago it was. Tom Brady was the quarterback for the Wolverines. I mean, that feels like 100 years ago. And as I'm just thinking about that and all that game brings, including Saban making a chess move this week, hiring the former linebacker coach from Michigan to just come randomly help out.
No, he didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wait, drop that on me. Just this week?
He started earlier this week. He sure did.
Well, he's got to get right on the job.
Yes.
How many years ago did this guy coach at Michigan?
Last year.
Shut the front door. Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Saban is the man. But in all that, I kind of forgot y'all are playing a bowl game. When and where is that?
Hold on. I want to go back to the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
Today. I mean, our man, Chris Park.
Hang on, while you're doing that, let me look up the stat line for Burrow.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is he has to be elated that Burrow got a win. I mean, Cincinnati, they're on the home stretch. I think they're still mathematically, maybe not, but I know Burrow is just going to push through the end of the year. What was his stat line?
I can't find it.
Oh, no. Your Google machine not working? Wait, can you find the UT Bowl game? Because it might have already passed because it's.
Let me close down Cage Match. Let me pull that up. Hey, serious business. I just saw. Check this stat line out. I mean, I know we're having a little fun, but let's talk about this. 29 of 42, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Joe Burrow did this?
No, his backup, Jake Browning.
Oh, my bad.
324 yards passing. Has Joe Burrow ever thrown for 300 yards in the NFL?
at LSU with 7 receivers. Right?
I don't know why. I hope one day somehow somebody smartens up Joe Burrow, a wrestling fan in his life, to listen to this, and you just destroy his ass every single week.
Stop it. Oh man, Conrad, the Vols, they're in Orlando. We're in Orlando the Wednesday after Christmas, and then not too many days after that. Is it Citrus Bowl, right?
I don't know. Alabama's never played in a bowl like that.
Oh, would you stop it?
I don't know.
Hey, that all kidding aside, let's go back to Florida State. Have you seen those guys? What's the scoop there? Because I have been super busy with my AEW and some baseball stuff and actually some gaming stuff. Hey man, Russell Quest and for Q1 of 2024, we got big news coming. But what is the word? What is talk to me?
The word is they're trying to sue. They want to sue, and they're trying to right the wrongs of the world. And I can't help but wonder if they really did, if they were able to successfully get this case into court, you got to assume they would just be like, LOL, Georgia instead.
But I mean, wouldn't so Florida State would be the prosecutor? Wouldn't the defense attorney basically have game film from the Georgia game,
right?
And just say,
well, listen, Alabama did not take Florida State's place. That's been misunderstood. Florida State belonged where Texas was. You had 2 undefeated teams at 1 and 2. If you were going to put in the 3rd undefeated team, you'd put them at number 3. Not only did they win their division, they were undefeated. So if anybody took Florida State's spot, it was Texas. The winner of the SEC always goes. That's not debatable. If you got a Power 5 conference and you're going to leave one out, never in the history of ever has anyone suggested successfully you should leave the SEC out. So Alabama was always going to be in at 4. The question was, who was going to be in at 3? Is it Florida State? And the answer was no, it was Texas.
I just can't imagine them doing anything until bowl season's over.
Well, whatever it is, it's crying over spilt milk. It's looking in the rearview mirror. A friend of mine often says on Tuesdays, change is inevitable, and you got to get with it. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you saw, I know people get tired of us talking about college football. I want to bring up one more thing, and then we're going to get out of here about talking about college football. Have you seen the Florida Gator schedule for next year?
They got a lot of,
let me just start you out. Here you go.
Oh boy, here we go.
We're going to play Miami as the opener. That's a big game.
It's a big game, real big game.
Samford, then Texas A&M.
Big game.
Mississippi State on the road.
Big game.
Hosting Central Florida. It's Miami now. I mean, it's Florida. So it's Florida and Central Florida. It's a big game.
Yep.
On the road at Tennessee.
Huge game.
Hosting Kentucky, who are better than they've been in years.
Yep.
Georgia and Jacksonville.
L.
On the road at Texas.
L.
Hosting LSU.
Ooh.
Hosting Ole Miss. At Florida State. This is the worst schedule in the history of college football.
Completely the other way. Like they were going to have a bunch of,
No. I know people will say, well, is Miami going to be that good? Yes, for that game they will be. Well, is Central Florida really going to be that good? Yeah, an in-state rivalry for that game they will be. They got one game, and that's Samford. Everything else is a murderer's row, man. Florida State, Ole Miss. Just look at like the top 5 this year. Florida State,
Georgia,
Texas, and Georgia. You got all of them next year. Oh, by the way, Tennessee too, and Miami.
At Tennessee.
And Ole Miss. Oh,
goodness.
Like if you're a Florida Gators fan, just wake me when it's 2025. It's going to be bad next year. I know you're probably not losing any sleep about it, but if you're a Florida Gator fan, let me go ahead and recommend right now, go ahead and get the Miracle Made sheets. You're going to need them. You're going to need them for yourself. And it's a great present. If you're looking for somebody as a last minute, maybe you got to get together after Christmas, Listen, if you've got a blended family, those holiday schedules can get crazy. Or if you've got family who lives in another part of the country. I know of people celebrating Christmas right now today as we're recording, because that's what this family schedule dictates. Well, if you got one post Christmas, it doesn't get any better than Miracle. Miracle Made sheets are the perfect gift for someone in your life, especially if they're hard to buy for. Who doesn't love good sleep? Who doesn't want better sleep? Who wouldn't enjoy luxurious feeling bed sheets? And we've got a special offer for you. Stay tuned. But here's why you should consider Miracle. First of all, they're going to feel like a 5-star hotel sheets, but they're like half the price. But more than that, man, it's the technology. If you struggle finding the right temperature, maybe you hate sleeping hot or you hate sleeping cold, these sheets are thermoregulating. They're silver infused, and that silver allows you to get to that perfect temperature and keep that perfect temperature all night long. Don't take my word for it. This is inspired by NASA. These silver infused fabrics are going to keep you in the perfect sleep every single night. Not only that, you also get to wash these sheets less often. You ever wake up and have a runny nose, or even worse, a stuffy nose? Maybe you feel like you're sneezing in the morning, but not through the rest of the day. It might be because your sheets are filthy. It turns out there's more bacteria on your bed sheet most of the time than there is on your toilet seat, but not with Miracle Made. Because that silver inside these sheets prevents 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving your sheets cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than other sheets. So it's less laundry. And not only that, this comes right now with 3 free towels. So you wind up getting 2 gifts in one just in time for the holidays. Stop sleeping on bacteria. It'll clog your pores and cause breakouts and acne. It's gross. But what's not gross is the savings, man. Go right now to trymiracle.com/myworld to try it today or gift it to someone special this holiday season. We got a special deal for our listeners. Save over 40%. And if you use our promo code MyWorld at checkout, you get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. I should mention Miracle's so confident in this product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go right now to trymiracle.com/myworld and use the code MyWorld to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/myworld to treat yourself, a friend, or a loved one this holiday season. So Jeff, the reason we're here today is to talk about the craziness of these crazy gimmick matches. Can't believe that you guys did all the craziness that you did. We're going to take a look back through some of the more over the top matches, if you will. This is a criticism that we heard a lot, that there were too many gimmick matches. And I can't help but wonder, did they say there were too many gimmick matches because there really were? Or did they say there were too many gimmick matches because of your family's history in Memphis and people just always automatically went to that? Like whenever I hear people talk about ECW, they talk about, oh, it was too bloody, it was too violent, it was too gory, but not every ECW show was, and certainly not every ECW match was. But that Memphis brush, that's a stigma that you've been painted with for your entire career. Oh, that Memphis stuff. And maybe they didn't say stuff. Y'all had too many gimmick matches, or do you think that there is something to that people in the industry just associate the territory and therefore you and your dad with gimmick matches?
So your question is, did we have too many?
Do you think you had too many, or do you think that people say that you did, and when they do, is that just or unjust based on just the history of the association with Memphis?
So I think that opens up a bigger question of discussion, a bigger topic of discussion that all kinds of questions could come out of. I think that, going back to prior to social media, if you really listen to the fans that maybe hung out back, or, in the early days of AOL chat lines, well, no, because then that gets into the reporting on people who actually didn't watch, and it's not their cup of tea. And so I think when you weigh it right down to, I think people actually being in the arena watching it versus people that heard about it It just kind of gets it breeds discussion that kind of almost gets out of. Now wait, are we complaining about we don't understand this gimmick match, or that there's too many of them? I think and I say, I think TNA, I think the wrestling industry in general at times confuses, doesn't do the best job, maybe glasses over it, maybe it assumes the audience understands. I think there are sometimes gimmick matches made that might not have the most is there enough story to warrant a gimmick match? But I also think if you turn that piece of paper over, that coin over, whatever it is, your alternative is just to have another match. And I think that's worse than not trying. I think action breeds discussion. And look, did we have too many? I think that's, so subjective that I think you could poll 10 TNA fans, like people, and I say TNA fans, I'm talking about customers who watched the TV show, bought a pay-per-view, went to a live event, bought merchandise, the true consumer. I think you would get a mixed bag of answer, even to the most diehard of TNA fans. Me personally, that I think we had too many. I think at times, I don't know. I don't think we had too many, but did we do the best job promoting it or explaining it? Maybe not. But I always erred in the way that, hypothetically speaking, Connie, if you're going to have a guitar on a pole, okay, that's probably the easiest. It's a way that the folks know, all right, a guitar is going to be used in Jeff versus AJ Styles. Let's make that a focal point, because if it's just Jeff and AJ in another single that we've seen 3 weeks before that, well, that doesn't have as much meat on the bone, other than, okay, man, I want AJ to climb that pole and hit Jeff with the guitar. I think there's a way to tell stories. And at the end of the day, at the very core of it, and this goes back generations, not just the territory days prior to that. I mean, if you think about it, 2 out of 3 falls is somewhat a gimmick match. I don't think it's Raven's House of Fun Clockwork Orange match, but the business has progressed. But from day one, they had cage matches. I saw that social media tweet that I think the Omni was one of the very first cage matches, and it was chicken wire and 2x4s in a circle built around on the ring.
They called it a fence match back then, didn't they?
Oh, wow. I believe they did. Yeah. So anyway, did we have too many? Subjective. Me personally, no. Did we promote them to the best of our abilities? Absolutely not. We didn't.
If we were to try to explain this like we were a third grader, how would you explain what a gimmick match is?
Oh boy. Well, in gimmick matches is something that I believe has really entered into the wrestling vocabulary much more. And I don't want to put a timeline on that, but the last 10 or 15 year, 10, 15, I don't know, 20 years. I'll say this. When I broke in and you hear car rides running up and down the road, and even in the early days of TNA, I didn't say, hey man, are we going to do a gimmick match? Now that's a part of our vocabulary now, but I would always say, how are we going to stip this match up? What kind of stipulation would we give it? And I don't think I would. Yeah, maybe I would today. I wouldn't say that stipulation and gimmick match, stipulation for the match and gimmick match. I would almost put those synonymous. Now, I know at this stage in 2023, I may be in the minority. Well, Conrad, when you hear stipulation and gimmick, is it two different things?
Well, I mean, I wanted to sit under your learning tree in that, but I think people use the phrase gimmick match interchangeably, like you were saying, like they represent the same thing.
Yeah.
But to your point, I don't think like an Iron Man match, that doesn't feel like a gimmick match to me.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm going, that when you hear gimmick, you think of, I almost want to say silliness. You know,
That's it. That's it. That's what I think of. I think of that WrestleMania where like they wore hoods and blindfolds and they had a Prince of Darkness match or, whatever they called it back in the day. But like the silliness of like a coal miner's glove match, like that's
and,
a gimmick match.
and when you say the silliness of a coal gunner's love much, if you were to have the right story with any territory babyface that could cut a hell of a promo, and let's just say, he has his 3-minute TV match, and we call it back in those days a job match. Now you call it an enhancement match, but he gets his quick win and he goes over to the table and he talks to Bob Caudle or Lance Russell or Mark Lawrence or Gordon Soley, and he talks about his big match coming up this Tuesday night at so and so Gardens, and he's going after that title, and here come the heels, and da 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 da, and they get in an argument, and it gets very heated, and then out of nowhere, somebody sucker punches him or comes and jumps him from behind, and then they pull out some kind of slapjack or something, and they cold cock the baby face, and he gets juiced, and he goes down, and maybe he's carried out of the studio, and then you talk about, okay, he jumped me, and I know what he used. He used, a weighted slapjack or whatever it is. And then that baby face basically says, you know what? I was taught when I was a kid, my grandfather worked in the coal mines and he had to go to work every day. And, I'll never forget when he passed away, that pair of gloves, my granny kept those until the day she died. Something that gave a story to why we're going to put this coal miner's glove, that if you put it on and hit somebody, you're going to see blood, but there's a story behind it. So a coal miner's glove match in the 1970s versus 2023, to me, are completely two different scenarios. It's story versus non-story. And that is something that I think the business, specifically in the 90s when it went to the Attitude Era, and I don't want to say shock TV, but much fast paced, and we're just kind of give entertainment to the casual fan. I don't want to say my dad and the territory promoters didn't care about casual fans. They cared about making money. And so if a person was spending money on their tickets, they weren't casual. They were fans. But man, we're splitting hairs, but this is when I know we're going to have fun and we're going to laugh and cut up and all this, but the evolution of stipulation matches or gimmick matches, it's something that it can be dissected in so many ways, because just like we talked about Sting's last match, just that name, wow, 11,000 plus tickets day one in the events, not till March. The name WrestleMania, how many tickets did they sell? Wembley, day one tickets went on sale. There's equity in that kind of stuff. So there was a time when you said Lawler Dundee were putting in a cage. Just the fact that it was being put in a cage, you could raise ticket prices and not one fan would complain. So there's value in creating revenue with gimmick matches, if done correctly.
I think maybe one of the things I think of with a gimmick match is there's something outside of the confines of the way we do a regular match. Like, I don't mean like an Iron Man. I mean like a coal miner's glove means there's, for lack of a better word, a prop being
Yeah,
used.
it is a prop.
There's something different being introduced. Whereas an Iron Man, although I said it's not a gimmick match, and I still would say it's not a gimmick match, we're just going to wrestle and we're going to see who can get the most falls, but we're going to do it for an hour. That doesn't feel like a gimmick. But as you said, Ravens Clockwork Orange House of Fun match, certainly a gimmick. It's going to make its debut on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, at the Asylum in Nashville, where Raven would defeat the Sandman. This is a hardcore match where poles are attached to the ring post with weapons hanging from them. And in some matches, a section of a steel cage would be attached. What do you think of this contraption and the gimmick and the stipulations, if you will? And who comes up with this? Is this Raven? Is this Russo? Do you recall?
If my memory serves me correct, it would be because Raven and Russo, I don't think every week, but traveled back and forth from Atlanta to Nashville often.
Yes.
And I think it was one of the car rides kind of discussions and, hey, Jeff, let me pitch you this. What do you think of that? And here's the cool name. It feels, even to this day, like like Raven named it. Now, I may be wrong. It may be Russo. I don't know, but I kind of think one of the two did. But the other thing that I kind of left out of that is that, and this is where at times I kind of look at professional wrestling around the globe. And in Mexico, oh, it's Lucha Libre. They don't tell any stories. Well, if you know the culture, yeah, they do tell stories. And then in Japan, oh man, that's just a bunch of moves and strong stuff. No, there's a story there too. And then back in the day in Germany, they had rounds. Well, anyway, I think really all of it together is the stipulations help tell stories. And this was, you could call it it's a hardcore match. Raven's match is, for better or worse, no DQ, no time limit, one fall to the finish, weapons are legal. But you kind of dress it up and it's House of Fun, Clockwork Orange match, a craziness. And it kind of sounds, okay, that's engaging. Let me take a look at this. And it fit his personality for sure.
We should also mention the maybe most famous version of this match is Raven defeating Sean Waltman at Hard Justice 2005. I think it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy in the match, but he winds up no showing. Do any of these matches stick out to you?
This was a good one. Jeff was battling his demons, so to speak. So as our buddy Eric Bischoff says, better than, less than, or what's the other one?
Different than.
Different than. People expected to see Hardy. I don't think, as you know, oh, okay, so Xbox in this. And then Kiddo went out there and they freaking tore the house down. Marcus, it may be a good time to plug that app because this is on. I'm almost sure.
Yeah, all of these great gimmick matches we're watching, you can watch right now at impactwrestling.com/packages. Use our promo code Jeff. It's only $7.99 a month. Of course, they're rebranding themselves TNA, and tickets are on sale now for their big event in Las Vegas with Okada. But you can watch all these great matches that we're going to be discussing at impactwrestling.com/packages. Be sure to use promo code Jeff.
But Shaw Waltman went out, and he's maybe he can be called an old timer now, but he's a seasoned vet. No, he's smart. He understood that they are expecting Hardy Raven. I got to go out there and really, not just have your A game on. Anyway, very, very good match. That these guys, I hate to say, as professional as they are, but they over delivered. They tore the house down.
Let's also mention that we've got, a lot of craziness on this, but that's not to say that these weren't good matches. I know sometimes when people say gimmick matches or craziest gimmicks, it's usually stuff you can dunk on. I'm not saying any of these were good or bad. I'm just saying they were different. Next on our list is the old axe handle on a pole match. Yeah. David Flair took on Kurt Hennig, the former Mr. Perfect, on January 8th, 2003. I think this is actually going to wind up being Kurt's last match, but the match ends after only 3 minutes when a ringside attendant actually went up and got the axe handle for David. I guess this is actually, if memory serves, the first ever pole match in TNA history. Whew. Axe handle on a pole, Kurt's last match.
And going through the notes on this, sometimes I had to really jar my memory, and I could not on this. The story behind it, like why did we do an axe handle? Like what did we do the week before that Kurt and or David would agree or want or suggest, or the storyline? But for our YouTube friends, and put that picture back up there. Conrad, I don't know if that does it justice, but that pole right there, I can remember going, my God. I mean, Kurt's, when he stands on the top, and we did this a couple of times in the early days, that's a very, very tall pole. I'll just say that. very tall. Because most of the time, if you got on where Kurt's at right now, you can probably touch the bottom of it, but he's another, 6 feet from the bottom of that axe handle. You can see it at the top. So, folks, go to My World YouTube page and you can see that nonsense I was just talking about. But no, those poles in the asylum, it's like when I think back to our Wild Wild West days, in the early days, and we'll get to it, the Ultimate X match, but this pole match and just growing pains as a look, and I'd been around and a bunch of us been around, but hey, we got to get a pole. And then you kind of have our production guy and comes back and you go, my God, that pole's 20 feet in the air. Anyway, I can remember us all chuckling like, okay, folks, we got a pole to climb here.
How does that come to be? Who was your who would source your polls? Who's your pole sourcer?
In these early days, gosh, it's I don't know. I don't know. Have you heard? Well, I'm kind of digressing here, but I don't know. The short answer is, but have you heard the old timers ribs back in the territory days when you would have a pole battle royal and you know, I'm looking at your face. You have no idea where I'm going with this, do you?
Nope.
So a pole battle royal, winner gets a title shot in the semi-main event. You know, just that would be the story, a spot show. And so if you wanted to load it up, and a lot of times this would happen, and let's just say hypothetically, everybody had to be at TV on Saturday morning. So the spot show from Nashville to Memphis, everybody's got to go that way. So everybody wants a payday. So, okay, we can't have 12 matches at this. So let's just put everybody in the opening battle royal, put in a little time, you know, and have a very entertaining, they get to see, let's just say 8-10 guys. And then you have match 2, match 3, match 4, match 5, and then Lawler match 6. Well, match 5 is going to be whoever that was against Dutch Mantell Hill. It's an easy way to give entertainment and all this, but you would let the young upstart babyface, you're going over tonight. You're going over tonight. He's going to have to work twice, but he loved it because he's going to get to work with an old timer. Little did he know on that pole, as they put it up, they got it nice and greasy and lathered up with baby oil and just super, super, where he can't climb the pole to get the contract or whatever that's hung up there so you could get that. And so you kind of leave it down to 2. Anyway, I have seen some funny scenarios when the young guy, and I'm one of the young ones at the time, you just kind of hit panic, like, how the hell I'm supposed to win this? And the heel goes, I can't get up there. Anyway, that's an old timer's rib. But speaking of pole matches, I thought I'd tell that story.
You eventually run a guitar and baseball on a baseball bat on a pole match between yourself and Joe Legend or Joe E Legend. You get the victory over Joe. We've never really talked about Joe on the podcast. What do you remember of this feud? And I don't know, pole matches in general. Like, how does as a wrestler, the way you structure a match has to be drastically different because it's less about false finishes, more about the tease and the cutoff for climbing the pole. It almost, in a weird way, feels like a tag match where, you know, you're trying to constantly cut the guy off, except instead of making the tag, it's getting to the pole.
Yeah, it's all story. You like you just said, false finishes don't mean anything. They're irrelevant. So you start and have a little bit of an opening high spot, but at the end of that opening high spot, if you're the baby face and the heel bumps and maybe rolls outside and forgets he's in a pole match, you got to immediately go straight. You know, you got to, you know, make the attempt that you're going to go get whatever on the, you know, on the pole. So again, it's story. You done correctly, you have to kind of build pole matches. And I've seen, I mean, there, you know, a lot of people may laugh and say, oh, Jeff, come on. I've seen some very, very good pole matches because it's the story of who's going to eventually get that. And when they get said weapon, it's legal and you're going to get to see it. And it's the payoff and everything that goes with it. But Joe Legend, a hell of a worker, man. I mean, we haven't really talked about him on here, but he's I don't want to say he wasn't gigantic, but he a big man, very agile, very, very athletic. And I think this scenario was I was the baby face, obviously, and he beat me up with a baseball bat, or the crew did, or whatever it may be, the week before, rib shots or something. And I think we made the step. You want to bring your bat? I'm bringing my guitar. We'll hang both of them. And so, and when you work the match, he's going after the bat and I'm going after the guitar, and you kind of work your story around that. But Joe, hell of a worker, man. I mean, he's one of those guys in the early days of the Asylum, and you just kind of look at like, holy damn, that guy, he could go. So Joe's one of those guys.
Do you remember who he was a part of a tag team when he first got going, Joe Legend? And they called what's that?
Who's his partner?
Well, I was saying that the tag team was called Sex and Violence. Do you remember who his tag team partner was?
Oh boy, I should.
Edge. Adam Copeland was wrestling as Sexton Hardcastle, so they were Sex and Violence.
Yep.
And then he, of course, was the Violence. I know you said you wouldn't believe it, but you've seen some great pole matches. I have too. Usually the pole matches I enjoyed seeing were between 1 and 3 a.m. But that's a story for another day. There is an interesting one. And this seems like it is almost like, can we get away with this?
It was after 3. Damn it.
How about a chair on a pole first blood match? Chair on a pole.
Okay.
That's Abyss and Kid Cash. What a match. Abyss versus Kid Cash. Big man, smaller man, chair on a pole.
They were okay. So this would take you back into inside baseball. And I always had a problem with that. Obviously, I proved this, so I'm not wheezing my way out of it. But I was always kind of have a problem with, and I'll throw Vince Russo right under Dutch wouldn't do this, but if a gimmick match is suggested,
yep,
you just said it's a chair on a pole, first blood. I felt like, did we really need to promote both of them?
Right.
Let's just say, hey, there's going to be a first blood match and chairs are legal. It's something along those lines, but don't try to double step it. I was not a fan. There I go using step. I didn't like double step it. Just say chair on a pole, and it's in your promo. You can say, I guarantee 2 things. 1, I'm getting the chair. 2, I'm making you bleed. That type deal. The double step, and that's been done, a lot. And we'll get into different matches, and it can be done. It has been done, but it's a little bit tough because are you watching a chair match or a pole match? I mean, a first blood match or a pole match. And I get it. It's story again, but I'm splitting hairs, but you know where I'm going with it. It can be a little confusing.
It can be. What's never confusing though is starting your day with one delicious scoop of AG1. These guys have been advertising with us for a long time, but they've been around in a regular part of my wife's life forever. They're constantly tinkering with the formula, getting it better and better. They've been doing that since the very beginning, way back in 2010. I started taking it at the start of the pandemic because my wife said this would be good for my immune system. Little did I know that AG1 would actually be replacing my multivitamin, my probiotic, and more in one simple, drinkable habit. It's a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients, and we think you should try it. You're going to set yourself up for success. Whether you're looking to improve your immune system or your digestion, maybe you just hate taking pills and vitamins and want something that tastes great, you can do all of that and feel what I feel, which is like a boost of energy. I think this is amazing, especially for me at work. I used to have that afternoon crash around 3 o'clock. No more. I'm focused longer. And if you want to focus more at work, you want more clarity, you want more strength, you want more energy, you want more gut support, man, AG1's good for what ails you. You set yourself up for success with 75 different high quality ingredients that all support energy, focus, strength, and clarity. Think of it as like your all-in-one nutritional insurance. And if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Just go to drinkag1.com/myworld. That's drinkag1.com/myworld. These pole matches go on and on. We even have handicap pole matches. Sandman's going to take on the Gathering, which is Julio De Niro and some guy named CM Punk in a Singapore cane match. It's Singapore on a pole. So yeah, the cane is on the pole. Believe it or not, Sandman can't overcome Punk and De Niro. So next we get a nightstick on a pole match between Dallas, which is Lance Archer, and Kid Cash, taking on D'Lo Brown and Grant Apollo. It's not enough pole matches though. It's a guitar match on a pole. Ken Shamrock and the Elite taking on 3 Live Crew, Larry Zbyszko and Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes trying to climb the pole. You're in this match too, teaming with Ken Shamrock and the Elite, or the Elite Guard rather, not the regular Elite. Either way, Dusty gets a win over you when he steals the guitar from you, but the visual of Dusty trying to climb up to get the pole never gets old.
You know what? It just a little downbeat here. This is where that photo right there, Dusty climbing a pole, Zbyszko, Conan's there. I'm down selling. I think that's BG James. But Dusty's willingness and engaging and storytelling. Conrad, when you look at the fans, is there one person sitting down?
No. So seriously, when you hear it, you do chuckle.
Yes.
Look at that. And the crowd's into it, dude.
And that's what I'm saying is when you kind of, that to me is the essence of the stipulation / gimmick matches. If you have, and heels can do it too, but it's so much better when you have the absolute right babyface to make the promo, tell the story, kind of make a visual picture in the promo where you go, damn it, I got to see that. Lawler was fantastic at it. I mean, just we could go on and on, but that picture right there to me kind of talks about this episode. We have stipulation matches, and you can say gimmick matches, LOL, and blah, 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 blah. Done right, they draw money.
Sting, Christian, and Abyss are going to get in on the fun. It's the first pole match of the Impact Zone on Impact, 2 weeks before their actual main event at Final Resolution. They have a nightstick on a pole match. And then there's a combination of things coming next we got to discuss. A key on a pole, Motor City Chain nightstick match. Key on a pole, Motor City Chain nightstick match. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
It's Rhino and AJ Styles. They're chained together. The poles have a key and a nightstick on it. The goal is to get the key to unlock yourself from the chain and then defeat your opponent. How late at night was it when y'all came up with that idea?
Yeah, I was going to say, I reread that and I said, okay, so we wanted the nightstick to be legal, but the key, okay, so that went down a rabbit hole in creative on a late Thursday when TNA and Russo had to go catch their flights. What year was that? Does it say? Probably not. That's all right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The next one is perfect this time of year. A double North Pole for a Christmas Impact between Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns taking on Team 3D and Johnny Devine. The team who would win determined the stipulation for the upcoming match at Final Resolution. Shelly gets the win, makes it an Ultimate X match. So we have a stipulation match to choose a stipulation match.
Of course we did. And a holiday, it's kind of like the turkey suit. So this was the Christmas episode to get us to Ultimate X. And why not make another gimmick match? What did they, in the Christmas match, they just had to climb the pole and get Santa Claus, or what did it say?
Buddy,
I'm sorry, Conrad.
Fourth pole match, that was news to me. We'll get to the Ultimate X match you mentioned in a minute. But first, something that I feel like happened a lot back in the territory days. A rat on a pole match. Kaz is in the ring with Dustin Rhodes, then known as Black Rain, with Black Rain's rat on a pole match. If you're watching with us over on YouTube, you see there is an actual rodent in a cage on top of a pole. But listen, I always thought that the territory group way back when in the Alabama territory, Rat Patrol, was just an inside baseball rib. It was a fun, I love it. But a rat on a pole match, this is Dutch seeing what he can get away with on TV, is it not?
So you almost described that right. So it's a pole, which is, attached to the ring post.
Yes.
On top of that pole was almost like a mailbox contraption.
Yes.
You opened up the mailbox, out comes a rat in a cage. Yes, folks, go to My World YouTube if you don't believe us, because when you see that image, you just kind of go, okay, all right, that's maybe jumping the shark a little bit. But look, Dustin's gimmick, Black Rain, and his ability to kind of get off in this dark character, and his friend was this rat, and in Orlando, yes, we had a rat handler. Is that the best way to say it, Conrad? Do you know any rat handlers?
I don't. I know that back in the day, Bruce has told me that Cornette had a pet rat.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that pet rat passed away of mesothelioma.
Who was the Rat Patrol? Was that a tag team?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a 6-man. It was. I know Steve Armstrong was in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you ever? Were you ever interested in being a part of the Rat Patrol?
No. Nope. Dustin's rat. What was Black Rain's rat name?
It was Johnny Rich, Steve, and Scott Armstrong. That was the RAT Patrol.
Johnny Rich.
Yes, that's who we were looking for. Neither you nor I could come up with that one.
No.
So do you remember the rat handler?
He was from Orlando, and he had all kinds of exotic animals.
He have any dogs with socks?
I want to say they were like baby bulls.
Got you. So this match has 4 boxes on poles, one of which has the rat, the other has mouse traps. Kaz wins the match because he gets the rat. Black Rain steals it from him afterwards, so it kind of rendered the match useless. But the boys fighting over rats, I guess, is not really new. I mean,
would you stop?
What? Now the classic TNA match. We're going to throw a bunch of people in a ring, in this case, knockouts, and have something on the pole and have them fight for it. This is quite interesting. It's Barber Shears on a pole match with Tracy Brooks, Jacqueline, Gail Kim, Christy Hemme, ODB, Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, Salinas, and Roxy. And the point of this match is whoever retrieves the shears wins immunity. Immunity, you may ask for, but it was for a match at Sacrifice, where there will be a battle royal, and the last 2 left have a ladder match to determine who wouldn't get their head shaved. A friend of mine once said, Connie, if you confuse them, you lose them.
Yeah.
This sounds a little confusing.
Well, if we reverse engineer this, and I'm not sure how far back out we went, Roxy agreed and wanted, and she said, yeah, I want to have a hair match and lose my hair. So this was 2 weeks out. How are we going to kind of promote that the hair match is coming up? And
right.
So yes, it's easier to explain in 2 or 3 minutes on a podcast. Try telling it to your wrestling audience. But at the end of the day, I can just hear Mike Tenay and Don West. The whole thing's about the shears. One of these ladies in 8 days, or no, what would that have been? 10 days, is losing their hair. When you see the visual on the TV and the battle rolls going on, the visual is one of these 8 or 10 ladies, say however many were in there, they are losing their hair in 10 days at Sacrifice pay-per-view. Plug in the pay-per-view and plug in the hair match.
We got James Storm and Abyss. They're going to have a beer bottle on a pole match. Scott Steiner and Petey Williams would have a headdress on a pole. Kurt Angle and Mick Foley would have official keys on a pole match. These are the keys to Mick's office.
Mm-hmm.
There's other pole matches like contract on a pole, briefcase on a pole. I think the total, we had 13 different variations of pole matches.
Is that it?
Feels like more than that, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. The Kurt Mick deal was, I believe that's when Kurt was running the Main Event Mafia, and Mick, I think he's like, "Yeah, well, you take anyway." Again, trying to tell stories in the ring, and that is something that is the incredibly difficult job of to tell stories and have the balance. Not too much talking, but enough not too much talking, but enough talking to get you to the story, and the talent tells the rest of the story in the ring. Easier said than done, I can assure you that.
How about a blindfolded cage match at Lockdown? We got America's Most Wanted, Chris Harris and James Storm. They're going to break up in their first match, which you would think would be a blood feud, is actually a blindfolded cage match. Now, why is it blindfolded? Well, because when they break up, Storm tries to blind Harris. And in fact, Harris comes out with an eye patch. So now, just like in WrestleMania 7, we got what I guess Florida used to call a Prince of Darkness match. What do you think of this as a rule? The idea is the guys can't see. As an adult, I wonder, why would we have ever thought that was going to be good?
Well, correct. So, full context, and this is something that James Storm, Chris Harris, America's Most Wanted were really pillars of TNA. The originals, certainly the biggest and best babyface tag team in the early days. And I don't know exactly where we were at in the relationship, or they were in the relationship, or the evolution of the tag team, but they wanted to split up and both have singles careers. And so we did the angle, and I think James cracked Chris over the eye, so he's losing his eyesight. Chris is going to wear an eye patch. But as this rolled along, kind of simultaneously, the Lockdown pay-per-view was coming up, which is a all steel cage format. So we needed them or wanted them in a match on Lockdown, but all matches were in a cage. So it's a step on, kind of what I said earlier. It's a step on a step. Had the cage not been up, I'm not saying that completely distracted from him, because I don't think at the very end of the day, the people wanted to see them break up. I don't know. As I said here today, no matter what we would have done, I don't think the people were ready to see the split. I just think they liked them as a tag team. And I kind of think we forced that because they wanted to do it. You know, in hindsight, we might have been better off keeping them together another 3 or 6 months, or told the story longer, or whatever it may be. But when we made the decision to do that, and then the Lockdown pay-per-view is coming up, and then the execution of that is not easy. And we were, I think that was St. Louis, and that crowd wanted to see what you probably just said. They wanted to see James and Chris. Big picture, they probably wanted to see them as a tag team, but now we got them facing each other. And if they were going to see that, they wanted to see a damn fight, as opposed to trying to tell a story. So in blindfold matches, you do a lot of Shakespeare, and is the guy over here, guy over here. And so too much storytelling. And man, the fans, they turned on the match in a big way. That was a tough bill for those guys, because they were wanting to do this red hot angle, and the whole angle kind of fell apart.
At some point in the match, Storm is going to grab the referee, Rudy Charles, and after Rudy convinces him he's not Harris, Charles spins Storm around to make sure he doesn't have an unfair advantage. And the fans start chanting, "We want wrestling," and then boring, and then fire Russo. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the hood accidentally comes off Storm's head at some point. This is just snake bit. They use a different word for it in the wrestling business once upon a time. There was a Shop of Horrors match too. Abyss and Black Rain are in it. Of course, I think the fantasy football league for Abyss looks like a Shop of Horrors. The Shop of Horrors match is basically a no DQ and no count out, but for some reason, Dustin has a key to a box off the ramp, and Dustin takes a choke slam to the floor, and Abyss tries to do it again on mousetraps. Dustin reverses it to pedigree Abyss on it, and it's not the finish. Abyss wins with the Black Hole Slam and takes the key to open the box, and it's the debut of Relic. Is this like the less said about this, the better?
Relic. Killer spelled backwards. Yeah. It was, less said's better.
How would we, if we were to do like a Bizarro Jeff, how would you pronounce Jeff backwards? If Relic is killer backwards, what would Jeff be backwards?
You got the double F-E-J. Feg. I don't know. You give it to me, pal.
I don't know. Just, I'm Darnock backwards. I don't know if you can do, is it Fedge?
I think, but G it's not a G, it's a J.
Like Jordan.
F-E-J. You're hanging me out to dry here, pal.
It's fun. I like to do it.
I know you do.
Speaking of hardcore matches, this is going to become a staple. And I can't say this was one of the silliest, but boy, it was one of the craziest. The Monsters Ball match. Listen, there's a lot of these that didn't catch on. We would try them and they were one and done. But this is one of those that definitely caught on. There's been 56 of these Monsters Ball matches.
Crazy.
A lot of those were on house shows, of course. The premise is everyone in the match is sequestered alone in a locker room without light, food, or water for 24 hours. I'm sure that's all a straight shoot. And it's to include the extreme feelings of aggression in the competitors, or induce rather that an extreme aggression, and there's no DQ. That's pinfall or submission victory. The most well remembered is Monsters Ball 2005, I think. Bound for Glory would see Rhino beat Abyss, Sabu, and Jeff Hardy. Bound for Glory 05 was a big show for you guys, a landmark show, and we loaded up here. Rhino, Abyss, Sabu, Jeff Hardy. Is that the most memorable Monsters Ball to you?
Oh, I don't. To me, I think Monsters Ball, obviously I think Abyss, but also think of the video packages that we put together to build this match. Because we would kind of know in our booking, if you will, that the 3-month arcs, kind of what we tried to do in TNA, wasn't rocket science on the one end, and the other end it was difficult to balance. But we kind of knew, okay, Monsters Ball is going to be 3 months out, so let's do things here and there, and knowing we're building that story, and then get sound bites, and then have the package, and probably 2 to 3 weeks out from the match, we just kind of let the package tell the stories. And it just, and we obviously, as can't believe there was that many of them. I know some of them were on house shows, but as time goes on and you have different spectacular high spots that you can put in there, it's kind of like WWE's Hell in the Cell. When you hear that, you just kind of think of iconic moments that have happened. Now, obviously, cage matches and guys that do moonsaults and all that, when you just kind of build the aura around it. But the Monsters Ball was, in essence, Abyss's version of a hardcore match. But man, he would go all the way with it, whether it was barbed wire and legit get ripped to shreds, or the thumbtacks, or obviously tables, ladders, and chairs. And Abyss would give it all, and we bag on him a lot. But when it came game time to put together any match, he's good. But when he put his mind to how am I going to structure this Monsters Ball match, and this is why I always love working with him, he thought about each individual guy's story and knowing that we're going to start here and we're going to get here. And by the end of his matches, those Monsters Ball matches, I believe, maybe not 100%, but damn close to it, everybody got over, not just the winner.
I know we've had a lot of fun with Abyss on this program, but I'm glad you said it, because I was going to as well. Like, when I look back on all of you, at least your time in TNA and Impact, it's hard for me to think of somebody who sacrificed more and put more on the line. I mean, Abyss, he's one of the pillars of the whole thing, is he not?
Without question. And, he was on the very first one in Huntsville, and then he went away.
Yes.
Puerto Rico with Dutch, and Dutch did too. And I'll say this, his name was Prince Justice, I think, at the first TNA pay-per-view. And when he came back as Abyss, as a seasoned performer who really understood the concept of telling stories, getting himself and others over, long-term storytelling, I just kind of think the rhythm that he helped create, not just himself, but X Division matches, tag matches, knockouts matches, just kind of the cadence of it all. I just had a conversation on my baseball side, and we talked about culture. Me and you have talked about it on Saban creates a culture.
Mm-hmm.
He wins every day. He doesn't just win on Saturdays. He creates that culture that we're going to have a winning mindset every day of the week. Abyss did that for sure from 2003 to 2009, in 10. And I'm not saying he didn't afterwards, but he's just a big part of creating a winning culture. And I think that speaks volume, because if there's and you're always going to have bad apples here and there, and people that are disgruntled. And I get that they're not booked enough, or want more money, or they're coming and going, or whatever. It just happens in business. But if you kind of have, as a part of that whole cog, guys that really put the nose to the grindstone day in and day out, and come to TV or come to work every day to win, man, oh man, it goes a long, long way. He was a big part of creating the culture at TNA.
The Bound for Glory shows were like your version of WrestleMania, and Monsters Ball became a staple at those, much like Money in the Bank was for WrestleMania matches for a while. And then they tried the Andre the Giant battle, battle royale memorial, and blah, blah, blah. So they try these different WrestleMania staples. Well, Bound for Glory had one. It was a Monsters Ball, and he had to be fired up in 2009 when Abyss's opponent that night was Mick Foley. I'm sure that night my man didn't need any Blue Chew. But here's the deal. Not every day is going to be a Monsters Ball, but it could be a Monsters Ball in your bedroom. And you could be bound for glory if you go to bluechew.com. Use our promo code MyWorld, and we're going to hook you up. You see, Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process couldn't be simpler. You sign up at bluechew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part. It's all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. So discover your options at bluechew.com. Chew it and do it. We got a special deal for our listeners right now. You can try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code MyWorld at checkout. That's it. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com and the promo code MyWorld to help you receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. So the Turkey Bowl is another one of those crazy gimmick matches from TNA. It was always fun, always around Thanksgiving, of course. And
look at AJ Styles right there.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like he did on SmackDown recently. Not really.
It's the same, but different.
Different.
Abyss seems to be in a lot of these matches, these gimmick matches. He's in a prison yard match against Sting. Inside the ring was a cage, and the first person to lock their opponent in the cage is declared the winner. Of course, we're going to be talking about Abyss in great detail next year, but the next match to discuss is a 10,000 thumbtacks match. Abyss is, of course, in the first one, because who else would be in there? This time against the former Spike Dudley, calling himself Brother Runt here. He does it again at Turning Point, where he's going to take on Black Rain, Raven, and Relic. Even the women get involved in one of these 10,000 thumbtack matches. Daphne's going to take on Taylor Wilde. Was there any hesitation to letting the ladies do a thumbtack match? What did you think of that?
She wanted to do it. Daphne wanted to do the thumbtacks. Again, right time, right place, right story. It's an attraction. I mean, when I kind of look at, the evolution of everything, that was new. Women in thumbtacks in 2006, 7, 8, 9 is new. I mean, women's wrestling was relatively new. I don't say new, but it be the way it was featured new. Just the innovation that we tried for, and sometimes we struck out, sometimes we didn't.
Speaking of the knockouts, we should talk about 2010, the Lockbox Challenge. Got 8 knockouts, an elimination tag match between Tara, who's the knockouts champion, Angelina Love, Hamada, and ODB taking on the beautiful people of Velvet Sky, Madison Rain, Lacey Von Erich, and Daphne. And if you're wondering what a Lockbox Challenge is, well, for each pinfall, both the winner and loser are eliminated from the match. The winner receives one of 4 keys, which grants them access to a lockbox. So even if your team lost, you could get a key just by getting a pinfall. And the prizes, when you got a key, an open contract, which is getting to choose a match against anybody of your choosing, Tara's pet tarantula poison, the honor, I guess, of having to perform a striptease, or the knockouts title. So to be clear, Tara is putting her title and her pet on the line, guaranteed to lose one of them, which I guess makes no sense. And Lacey Von Erich, in a promo for the match, is hoping to get the striptease box so she can give a lap dance to AJ Styles. She's basically campaigning she'd rather dance on old Alan Jones' lap than win the world championship. What the hell is this?
Oh, Connie, little scrambled eggs, wouldn't you say? Over stipulation.
If you confuse them,
you lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed you just trying to
make sense of that.
Well, I didn't make sense of it. Just try to explain it. So I was
hey, let me ask you, we've been, I can't tell you how many times I've been tweeted about this Continental Classic that AEW's doing. We'll clip all this out if you think you're going to get in trouble. But I'm tagged all the time from people saying, hasn't Jeff tried talking to Tony? If you confuse him, you lose him. We shouldn't be doing this. I'm not confused by it at all. And my wife watches very little wrestling. As a matter of fact, she doesn't like wrestling at all. However, we were watching Man Andrade wrestle the other night, and they showed the score afterwards. And I said, hey, I want you to see this, because she got up to leave the room, like, okay, that's the end of the match. And I said, hey, I want you to see this. So she looked and she said, oh, that's different. Hey, I like that. And I thought, it makes total sense. Like, my wife, a non-wrestling fan, totally understood what it was. But I think sometimes because something is different, people immediately jump to shit on it because it's not the same old stuff. This same fan base is often crying, we want new, we want new. I get that. I like this Continental Classic. I like the scoring model. It's not hard for me to follow. It's created a bunch of matches. I know as a rule, you're not a tournament fan, but this scoring model, this is the first time something like this has been done in a long time here in America, but it's pretty common in other parts of the world. What do you think of, the minority, the vocal minority that I've seen online saying, I can't follow it, it's too confusing? I don't get that.
A quick sidebar. There is a high school football team in Middle Tennessee that went undefeated. And I was told that their fan base, we'll just call them the parents, about half of them were upset at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
My point being, I believe, well, I'll let you answer. You think I believe it's impossible now. The culture is, there is people always going to complain. I mean, about anything. The Continental Classic, you hear the analogies to the Japan G1. I mean, there's been tournaments and different things and different iterations and not exactly the same. And I mean, forever and ever and ever. I think it's super easy to understand. And, you know, there've been clean pinfalls, which I do think has helped in the storytelling. I think there's an argument on both sides. Hey, how come we didn't get a DQ or a count out or any of that kind of stuff? Well, folks, maybe wait till next year. You know, that kind of deal. But I think, you know, in the different you know, gold and blue. So your question was, what's my thoughts on it? I think it is I may be having it off a little wrong, 6-7 week story that involves 12 guys, if you will. And again, it's subjective, but I think it's super easy to understand, like really easy. You know, and there's a lot of stuff that's been just being seen online, some post-match comments. I know some of it's making TV, but I think there's some follow-up story with the emotion. And I know me and Sanjay and Jay Lethal and Karen have done some stuff. It's super easy. I mean, I can remember it's a TNA show, so this could be considered a gimmick match, the Bound for Glory series that we ran, I think, a couple of years in a row. But no, it's not new, but it's the AEW spin on it and the title prize, and they're punching their ticket, and Moxley's already going to Orlando. Again, Connie, I sound like a broken record, but it's subjective. And I do not think it's confusing. And look, I'm the first to kind of say confuse them, you lose them.
Yes.
I think I'm not sure how folks could be confused. I'll just say that, because after every match they give the score, you know.
Right. I agree totally. They immediately give the score. They're telling you it gave stakes. Like we just watched Claudio wrestle at Andrade, and the idea was if Claudio lost, he's out.
Yeah.
You know, Andrade was near the top of the leaderboard, but he didn't need the win. Claudio did. Claudio cheated to stay in, showing he's willing to do what it takes to stay alive. And I don't know, it adds a little bit of story and a little bit of stakes. I really enjoyed it. It's given us some good matches. I do have one complaint about the thing though, Jeff.
Now let's hear it.
Where's the Last Outlaw? Why is he not in this?
Yeah. You know what? I would have actually enjoyed this. And I know it's a lot of wrestling and, you know, but I've never been in it. Like I wasn't in one Bound for Glory series. I certainly wasn't in a Japan tournament, but you know, it would have been a different direction to take the old Last Outlaw, but
here's my question, Jeff. And again, we'll cut this off if you're not happy with it. I want to get a little campaign going. I want fans who listen to this show, who enjoy the Last Outlaw, we need to think of a hashtag and get people talking about it. Because it wasn't that long ago. I saw a tweet about how active you'd been in AEW this year during one of the biggest resurgences of all time. You had like 25 matches through October, or through September rather. And then October, November, December, not nearly enough Last Outlaw on TV. I need to get you back in there stacking bodies up. I think what we should do is you should take on the winner of the Continental Classic, ruin their life.
Let's do it.
Destroy them. And then why don't you just ease over once they crown a new Ring of Honor women's television champion, hit that chick in the head with the guitar, show her a figure four. We've talked about it here at 98. You're equal opportunity.
Damn right.
I'm just saying, by God, last time we saw you, you were getting your hand raised in Memphis in a street fight against Eddie Kingston. And I have it on good authority that he's yellow and he's been ducking you ever since.
Yes, sir. I beat his ass.
Let's run through your year so far.
Oh boy.
You beat Eddie Kingston's ass in Memphis in a street fight, old country style. You damn sure didn't take the pin against the Lucia Brothers and the Hardys. That was somebody else. You weren't involved in that.
No, sir. No, sir.
And you were not the weak link against Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed. I won't have it. Not on my timeline. But you did take Jeff Hardy to the limit in the most iconic, discussed match of all of 2023, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre death match. You did it. I'm just saying, you run down the list this year. You beat up Mark Briscoe. You beat Dax Harwood. Showed him who's boss. You sent Brian Pillman to another company. Get your ass out of here, Brian. Last Outlaw's dispensing of you. And now we can't even get you on TV. Like
I was taking OC Orange Cassidy's ass out.
Dude, all of them. You're just stacking bodies left and right.
You
You
want
beat
to
Anthony
first,
Bowens, Billy
well,
Gunn, just on and on.
if you take the first 90 days, would you not say Aubrey is the cause of no tag team gold? Probably the first 90 days.
No doubt. And let's be real. Like, I mean, honestly, I don't want to I don't want to violate any HIPAA stuff right here. But I have it on good authority that Kenny Omega's issue started when he stood toe to toe, nose to nose, and looked you in your eyes.
On the anniversary, yes, sir, in Tampa.
He took a good look in your eyes, and immediately he got a funny feeling in his stomach, wound up in the hospital. That's how bad
The stroke,
it is.
the stroke got him.
We got to get the Last Outlaw back on TV. There's not enough. I mean, you probably got a stockpile of guitars. Is that what everybody's getting for Christmas at your house this year?
No. They will be used. Believe me. When things come, they come in abundance. So get ready, pal. Start your campaign, Connie. You go ahead, and we got probably Coach Rosie and Josh and I mean, we could go down the whole list of top guys, and then the slap nuts, and then the whole list, pal. Get the army.
When people are like, "Hey, I wonder what AEW can do next," I got an idea. I got an idea. So listen, let's talk about lumberjack matches.
Oh boy.
What I like about lumberjack matches are the fan lumberjack matches. We've talked about the one at No Surrender 2006 back in the past, but fans around the ring, and the way they used to do this in the South is they'd let them use their belts, like the belts they're wearing to hold their pants up right then. And as I understand it, the rules used to be you had to have the buckle in your hand, don't swing the buckle. And they even used to call this silly, cute things in these parts, like a country whipping match. But you would say, hey, that wasn't that bad. Fan lumberjack matches. Any good or bad memories of that?
I was going to ask you, keep that picture up there. If I remember correctly, that's Brian Fritz. You know who that is?
That name rings a bell.
Yeah, he's, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. He worked in Central Florida Sporting. Anyway, that's him. No, so, okay, all kidding aside, I believe it's certainly a top three. I love Ultimate X's. I think that was, I don't want to say a game changer, but I think it was very, very identifiable. X Division made us different in so many ways. It really crystallized. Oh, yeah, that's the alternative. We're not number 2, number 3, whatever it is. The alternative to the mainstream of WWE was TNA. And how were they different? Oh man, they got this X Division. And then when you drill down on that and watch it a while, you say, oh, the Ultimate X match. It's all that. But the fans lumberjack match is done correctly. I don't have to tell you. How do you create ratings? How do you create revenue? How do you create sales in the wrestling business? It's emotional attachment.
Yes.
That when you tell the story of a protagonist and antagonist, heel and a babyface, and have that, me and Samoa Joe at this particular time did, and that I'm the heel and I roll out and the fans were booing and everything, and I pulled a fan over and whipped his ass and all this. It's really Joe is fighting for the fans. The babyface is fighting for the fans. And he's going to kick Jeff's ass, and I cheat, and I do this on one week and next week. When you finally build it and the stipulation goes down and the gimmick goes down, and all of a sudden the fans are going to surround the ring with leather straps, and Jeff, you can't run and you can't hide. And as long as you stay in that ring and take an ass whooping from Samoa Joe, all well. But you can't run this time, because you do, you got 25 fans outside the ring to whip your ass. It's easy to get emotionally engaged in that. The fans lumberjack, the fans revenge lumberjack match, to me, checks a lot of boxes, creates a lot of emotion. It hurts like hell for a little bit, but I mean, it's, a fan hitting a talent with a leather strap is real. And I know there's the naysayers. I can't believe y'all are doing that. Well, it is It's part of it. So I was always, or not always, I am a big part of that stipulation. Scott Fishman, recently retired, Spike executive, Viacom executive, been with them 40 years. He moved on to TNA to Bellator. So he was the Spike executive in charge. Fun little Easter egg. In this match, Scott Fishman came out of the truck and was actually a part of, he played the role of a fan and he whipped my ass that night. So they're very entertaining matches.
Let's talk about something that was very entertaining as fans, but I'm sure it was something that you at least had to discuss. A no rope barbed wire match. They called it Barbed Wire Madness. It happened between Sabu and Abyss at Turning Point 2005. It's the first time we would see in TNA a no rope barbed wire matches. Now, barbed wire matches, I'm sure have been around a long time. The first one I remember hearing about was Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard, where they would wrap barbed wire around the ropes. But the no rope barbed wire, I started to see in like FMW and Big Japan. And then, of course, when they did one at the ECW arena with Terry Funk and Sabu in 97, they called it Born to be Wired. I know that really helped keep ECW afloat for a bit with their VHS sales. It was a spectacle, but very dangerous. Very dangerous. And this is something that, as much as you like to say, oh, I'm the king of hardcore, I just can't imagine Jeff Jarrett saying, yeah, let's take the ropes down. I'll just run into the barbed wire. But Sabu and Abyss, these crazy rascals, they were all about it. Did this take any convincing? I mean, this is a real risk. If this is not rubber tip barbed wire like we saw in the WWF for Cactus occasionally, this could be really, really bad.
Swerve Hangman did some stuff
Yes.
feels like last month, but at the Kia Forum. But it does take a special, unique talent to sign up for this. This isn't something that you just go to the Motor City Machine Guns and say, oh, by the way, we have you in a no rope barbed wire match this Sunday. No, the talent have to be engaged, want to do it, because if not only is the match not going to be good, but it's just like the air is let out of not just the match, the entire show. But ask Sabu and Abyss to do it. Again, special, unique breed talent that want to do it. And my God, what you just said, the risk factor is exponentially higher.
Yes. And because it is also logistically not easy to do.
No.
Like the first TNA pay-per-view was almost a disaster because Cheeks broke the ring right before we went on the air. So they're trying to put together the ring to start the show. So if we know we're going to have a no rope barbed wire match, part of me says, well, that should be the main event because there ain't no topping that. But logistically, that means you got to take the ring apart and put it back together with this barbed wire during the pay-per-view. And that's hard to really buy time for, unless, of course, you're doing a pandemic show on a closed set and you've got some episodic, cinematic type movies or movie matches you can do. But in front of a live crowd, it sort of requires, if you're on pay-per-view like you were here, that you start the show with this. So that is what happened on this pay-per-view. And I assume it's because it's just easier to do that logistically. But man, it's hard to really get into, oh, these guys are really kicking each other's ass when they're doing headlock takeovers after we just saw guys just rip each other to shreds, right?
And you could probably tell me what the main event is. It's a high risk if you put them on last, but because you just don't know how it's going to go.
It's unpredictable. Yes.
One bad move and the match is like over immediately. And we'll probably do this on another crazy episode, but how things have evolved. Our 2017 Slammiversary, I point over here like you can see it, but no, I got memorabilia over there. But the Abyss, Jeremy Borash, Josh Matthews, Scott Steiner, it was a crazy gimmick match, somewhat cinematic in parts, but as the gimmick matches / stipulation matches have kind of morphed into, because we were just, I don't know what made me think of the graveyard match, how things have morphed into the cinematic. But this is raw, uncut. It's brutal. It's just brutal. And we chose to start with that and had our production crew ready. And you've got to kind of put the ring up. You got to get the ropes right, so to speak. Then you got to take them off, but have them on standby, because as soon as this match is over, just like you said, you've got to have the rest of the show. And that's not always easy. So there's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of production planning and execution when you start with this. But my God, like I said, to have a no rope barbed wire match and have a good one, those guys, hats off to them, man. Anybody who signs up for one.
It was a crazy match. There's no doubt about it. We would actually do it again in 2008. It would be Judas and Abyss against all odds. The Fish Market Street Fight covered recently. Shark Boy and Curryman against Team 3D. There were fish involved. Fish.
Yes.
In the early days of TNA, you guys would have what I guess was essentially a play on War Games, just without the cage. And it was called S&M, Sadistic Madness. The goal of the match is to make everyone bleed on a team before they could be pinned or submitted. And the blood had to be from the result of an offensive move by the opponent. The first time it happens is when Triple X teams up with the Harris brothers to take on the New Church, Sandman, and Perry Saturn. This is the 38th weekly pay-per-view. TNA at the time is under a lot of scrutiny from the internet wrestling community, the dirt sheet writers, and even some wrestlers have been pretty vocal about the amount of blood on the shows. But I'm sure the thinking is, hey, it's a pay-per-view. We got to turn it up. We got to give them something special. But this almost feels like you're thumbing your nose at them. Oh, yeah? Well, we're going to make sure everybody bleeds before the match can even really get going.
Look, and I'm going to go back to the Fish Market match. The full context of that is the pay-per-view was done in Boston.
Right.
So we kind of, we could have called it a street fight. 3D was in it against the guys. But we said, let's just add a little garnish and a little salt and pepper and spice it up a little bit. And Curry Band was in it anyway. And Shark Boy was in it. So that's how the Boston, and we said, hey, if we're going to do this, go to Fish Market, get real fish. But anyhow, it was entertaining. Bubba and Devon were great. They took the fish shots, and Don West saying, oh my God, a flounder across the head, or whatever the sound bites were. That was that. But the early days of TNA, yes, the ebbs and flows of it's only pay-per-view or it's strictly pay-per-view. So we got to give them, what they're not going to see on traditional TV. But at times we pushed the gas too hard and had too much blood. So there was an ebb and flow of, did we give them too much blood, or is that not enough type deal? So this is one of those ebbs where it was probably too much.
The match later morphs into the Doomsday Chamber of Blood between Abyss and Matt Morgan. So we've got a second version of the match. We're calling it Doomsday Chamber of Blood. Let's talk about a little more old school TNA. The Ultimate Sin match. This went down at the Asylum in Nashville. Team Extreme takes on the New Church. Barbed wire is wrapped around the ropes. There's a ton of weapons. And we often talk about how Memphis helped influence ECW. But man, this feels like, I don't know. This feels like Ian Rotten almost. This feels like Axel Rotten almost. The barbed wire around the ropes in Nashville. Was there ever anybody on the writing team or in the sphere of influence who did feel like the blood was too much?
Yes. I mean, among others, I would always say, hey man, too much is too much. Gratuitous blood is just that. It desensitizes our audience. It's never going to mean anything. I also think that about too many gimmick matches, but also think that about, oh my God, we just gave them 7 straight wrestling matches with kind of relatively. Conrad, I got bad news.
What's the bad news?
This is the first time we've recorded on a Sunday with the Titans playing. And the Texans just did a walk-off touchdown, and our quarterback got hurt.
Man, I mean,
Can we?
respectfully, all y'all have done is a lot of losing in Tennessee,
Oh
whether
my
it's
God!
collegiate or NFL. Like, aren't you used to it now? Why is this still a shocker? Wow. I got some breaking news to tell you off air about Santa Claus when we finish recording.
Wait,
Don't
they called it back. I think they called it back. Are they calling it back? I don't know. Anyway, too much blood's too much blood, pal. It just is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But I think you can go that way with too much blood, too much. You can make it boring. I mean, anyway, variety's the spice of life, but you have to really have a good recipe because you can air too much way in multiple ways and you have a really flat show or a bad show, bad taste. Back to our Chris and James, America's Most Wanted. That just really turned the folks.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're in the fourth quarter of our program here, and the Titans are in the overtime, about to lose to the Texans. But
I
if you
know
want to
they
get-
called it back at 16-16, so but they're in field goal range. But it's all right.
That's where I was getting to. Do you want to do the Vita spot?
The what?
Well, I'm trying to shield for some goddamn advertisers here. If you'll just give me a minute.
Okay, shit. My God. I'm enjoying the hell out of this. We're not even going to get to the Ultimate X today, are you?
I mean, we can. I'd rather talk about the electric cage. The electric cage match, I know, was something that happened down in Mexico, and you saw it down in Mexico. I think they even did versions of this in Continental, but you did it in TNA too. It's Team 3D against LAX at Lockdown. Was this just a failure in execution? I mean, it sounds really exciting.
Complete failure in execution. It was a time in my life where a lot going on personally in 07, and it was, I'd seen it in Mexico, and to Dutch and Vince's defense, they really didn't have a full context and production manager, and there was a vision for it, but I wasn't around to really make it come to life. And I'm not saying I would have the fix all, but we could have worked out the kinks had we had 6 P's. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance, and we didn't properly plan to execute this match. When you see it in Mexico, it's not perfect, and they've had some great ones, and then they've had some ones that really laid egg. But the concept is good.
What about the concept of feast or fired? Where were you at on that? We haven't really spent much time talking about that as a gimmick match.
So there's and let me ask you, well, it's almost every time this match is kind of discussed in an open forum, you hear the statement, now why would anybody enter a match that had the opportunity, there's a chance of them getting fired? And I always think, does a talent really have the authority to say, no, I'm not going to be in this match? Because isn't that breach of contract? You know what I mean? And the Titans just lost. But
is that really a surprise? I mean, Jeff, they were 5-8 when the day started.
I've tried to be really nice to you, Conrad.
They're 5-9. You're acting surprised. Let me give you a spoiler. They're going to be 5-10 next week.
Oh man, there's just really no.
I'm just saying they're going to lose to the Seahawks on Christmas Eve. You know it, and I know it. It's not a secret.
We were winning this entire game. This is the first time they've taken the lead.
The storytelling. It's a work. It's a work.
You ain't kidding. It is.
Hey, real deal.
Easter fired. I love the concept because from a creative perspective, you know how talent will appear on a show and then you just won't see them. They're gone forever.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's not good continuity.
Right.
So it is a simple way to have a stakes battle royal that you can create 4 stories out of it. And you get a tag title, an X title, a heavyweight title, and then one guy is getting his pink slip. And out of the pink slip, how many times one of the best angles Dusty Rhodes was ever in? I don't know if it was the different setups that a person loses a loser leave town and then comes back under the hood. And I'm not saying you do that every time on Feast or Fired when you do the Fired Briefcase, but there's a way to create a new character, a new story. This guy gets fired. I mean, it's a launching pad, if you will. The whole concept was, hey, this is going to be at the end of the year. And I know a lot of people are like, why in the world, where'd this ever come from? There was a time that we would get the mandate from Dallas, cut the roster. We got too many guys. We got too many talent. And Vincent Dutch and me and others would say, we don't think we have enough, but we get it because we've got to cut. You got to try to balance the budget. You can't go over this. You can't go over that. And then there's also the side of the talent where talent goes, hey, man, I'm under contract, but I'm only getting booked 2 out of the 4 days out of the TV days. So anyway, it's the juggling act. So if we're in that phase of you got to cut talent, okay, let's give a reason why one of these guys is not going to be around. So anyway, not perfect, but I thought it was a simple way to create 4 stories out of a battle royal.
You were talking a little bit about psychology and like, why would any talent, blah, blah, blah. I sort of found myself doing that when I was stating over the weekend how much I enjoyed Vikingo and Black Taurus at the Ring of Honor show. I mean, it was a crazy spectacle. Now, there was a spot early in the match where Black Taurus power bombed not Commander, but Vikingo on the floor on one of the mats. But I mean, he launched him like an old school jackknife power bomb where Kevin Nash would just throw dudes across the ring, except not landing on the ring, landing on the concrete.
Damn.
And in my head, I mean, the rest of the match, you could tell Vikingo, Lord bless him, he was really limping around. He clearly hurt his back there. Okay. I don't think it's a secret that he was hurt. And allegedly, you could even see it backstage. But that's not a surprise to me. But what was a surprise is when he tried to do a move on the ropes and he lost his balance and he tried again and then he got it. People online were sort of dismissing the entire match because they felt like that one thing he had to try over twice really took them out of the match. And in the confines of a traditional wrestling match, I get it. Psychology would say, well, why would Black Taurus just stand there? But that wasn't a regular wrestling match. That was a lucha match. And in lucha, that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. So you got to see it through that lens and understand a little more of how lucha works compared to wrestling. But at the same time, those guys would say, oh, well, it was on a wrestling pay-per-view, an American. I get you. But you have trouble suspending your disbelief for that, but not for anything else that you see, even as simple as a fucking Irish whip. Like, if you and I were in a real fight and I tried to like jerk you by the shoulder across over here, you wouldn't just take off running that way. Like, that's just silly. Like, where do we draw the line? And I just think that as I see people getting caught up in these little details, I got a friend who lives a few hours north of me, and he always says creative is subjective. If we want to try to poke holes in anything, we can, or we could just enjoy it. There's an idea.
Well, you said way early in the episode, all that Memphis SHIT, right?
Yes.
I think actually Meltzer complimented my dad's booking her not long ago, but Uncle Dave will also clown on Memphis too. But I think at the end of the day, and this is what I was born and raised on, is that back to that variety that, I think back in the day, people didn't have the mindset, I'm going to go watch this show. And that's why I think my role as a performer in 2023 is to walk through the curtain and tell a story from the time I walk through the curtain to the time I get to the back. There's other guys that walk to the ring, no promo, no nothing. So their segment is performance based. And then there's story based. And then there's maybe violence based, if you will. I think it's all what you said. It's all subjective. So what do you like? But the culture we live in, it's just not like wrestling. Hey, I kind of like this and I kind of like that. So I'm not going to comment because I like it. But the stuff I don't like, oh boy, I am going to chirp away, and the vocal minority comes in play. They're going to talk more about what they don't like as opposed to what they like.
Let's talk about something we all like. An amazing new app called Vita. They've created a new form of advertising that eliminates spam and allows everyone to get paid for their time and attention. You simply go to Vita.io to download the Vita app and select a free second phone number, so you no longer have to worry about giving away your personal number. When a telemarketer calls your Vita number, they'll need to pay to get their message through. And the best part is the app is completely free. Brands are finally realizing the value of rewarding their customers for their time and attention. And our new sponsor, Crowd Health, is using it, and it's not only a fun way to support the show, but you can also earn some money in the process. So please try it out today by downloading the app at Vita.io or by calling 509-WRESTLE and following the link. That's 509-WRESTLE or 509-973-7853. Remember, you can download at Vita.io. That's VIDA.io or call 509-WRESTLE. Call now and you'll earn your first $1 just for downloading. So Jeff, you mentioned it, the Ultimate X, probably the most well-known of all the gimmick matches that TNA innovative. How does that come to be, and why is it so difficult to keep the X up on the cables?
Well, I think it became not difficult, but I think we had a couple of trial and errors that we learned kind of the hard way. The image that's being shown right now on the X, we took the actual belt and put it up there and, wrapped it around the X, and the actual X Division belt stayed up there. The entire concept kind of came out of a creative session, and it's, hey, let's have a ladder match without a ladder, because, I think probably the most famous ladder match coming out of the gate was WrestleMania 10. Shawn and Razor, and time went on, but very dramatic, so much story that goes into it. And it kind of makes sense that the story can be pretty easy to understand, that the belt's held up or however the story is. So the X Division, we always had 3 ways and 4 ways and 6 ways and 6-packs and all that. So that was kind of the genesis of all the thought processes. Eventually we got to hanging an X up there that symbolized, what we were doing. And again, trial and error, startup promotion that evolved sometimes slowly, sometimes not so slowly. But I loved how innovative, and I don't want to just say 1 name, 2 name, 3 J, like AJ or Chris Daniels or I mean, I could
AJ bump. The first big AJ bump was bananas, was it not?
People went, but that's what I'm saying. You just recalled it like that, which is cool. But the Ultimate X match, in a lot of ways, kind of gave that, to me, at the real core of it, our fan base goes, that's ours, and it is ours, and nobody can take it away from us. It's the first time we've ever seen this kind of match. That I think it just kind of built equity in the brand.
Elevation X between AJ and Rhino was really the next step. I don't know that it caught on as much as the Ultimate X did, but look at the visual. If you're watching along with us over on YouTube, seeing these guys crawling across the top of this, I mean, here's a little bit of trivia that I think a lot of our listeners may not know. When I look at this, I can't help but think of a scaffold match. When I think of scaffold matches, I think most of our listeners think of the Night of the Skywalkers for Jim Crockett Promotions, but that was in the mid 80s. But there's probably a trivia note out there somewhere about scaffold matches in your family, huh?
How about old JArrett doing, to our knowledge, the first ever scaffold match in Louisville, Kentucky? I think old Corny tells the story much better than I could. But no, when you go back and watch the highlights of it, it's all story. They didn't do hip tosses and backdrop.
Yeah.
It's all the threat of, oh my God, somebody's going to fall, and it's going to be a catastrophe, as things evolved, but the Elevation X, in theory, it sounds great to market and everything, but it really took away what made those guys so fantastic is their off the charts moves. Really, Elevation X is a fancy way of saying a unique scaffold match, and scaffold matches are hard to create action. It's all drama.
Perhaps the one that you're most synonymous with when we think about gimmick matches, King of the Mountain. And it always seemed to be based around you and the world title. Was the branding of that match important? Is this the best built match in TNA history as far as the gimmick match goes? Or talk me through the King of the Mountain match. I mean, you sort of said it's like a reverse battle royal. Talk to me about this.
Well, maybe not a reverse battle royal. The thing that, and I think,
A reverse ladder match, I mean.
well, the reverse ladder match was the Ultimate X.
Yes.
I mean, no. You're right. King of the Mountain. The Ultimate X was a ladder match without a ladder. That was that. But you're right. The King of the Mountain was a reverse ladder match.
Yeah.
But with 5 guys in it, just kind of deducting. And on the one hand, people's like, oh my God, that's the most confusing match in the world. I think the sales point, and TNA would always do a much better job than I can, is the way you win the match is you hang the belt by climbing a ladder
Yes.
15 feet in the air. And then you take the next layer. Well, how do you become eligible to grab that belt? Where does that come from? Well, you got to get a pinfall. Okay, if a guy gets pinned, does he just lay there? I can just remember kind of having the different conversations. Okay, you got to get, so how does all this, does it start? I mean, we could really go in rabbit holes. To go on record, the Ultimate X match, I think, is TNA's best. We're calling it. That's what this show is. Gimmick. Best stipulation, best gimmick match. I believe it's the Ultimate X match. I think King of the Mountain, we created a lot of drama through the years. AJ was great in them. Abyss was fantastic in them. The stories that we did in them, Earl and Larry Zbyszko, and a lot of ways to go in and out of it. It could become very dramatic when 2 different guys at different stages take a pinfall. They have to be put into a penalty box for 2 minutes. It's easy to understand once you start watching it, but there was a narrative online, and I guess the NXT did something recently that had a flavor of that. Again, it's trying to be innovative without crossing the line of confusing them and losing them. And that's, like I said several times today, easier said than done. But the King of the Mountain was always centered around the World Heavyweight title match. So it was kind of, we wanted to create a signature heavyweight title match step. And just like we did, the signature for the X division was the Ultimate X. King of the Mountain was for the heavyweights.
We're only about halfway through these gimmick matches, so we'll cut it off there. I sort of teased what we were getting to next, the reverse battle royal. We'll talk about that, the Dub Cup, and so much more. We'll table all of our fan questions too, because we got a ton about some of these gimmick matches, but we'll cover them all before we hit the questions. And speaking of covering them all, we're going to be covering all of 2023 next week here on the show.
Oh boy.
Talk about all the craziness that was the year of wrestling in 2023. Of course, we're going to talk about your professional career in 2023, but we'll also talk about some of the lives we lost. Terry Funk, Bray Wyatt, the Iron Sheik, Lanny Poffo, Jay Briscoe, Billy Graham, and of course your father, Jerry. And we'll even do like a little top 10, Double J's top 10 moments of 2023 that are going to have an impact on the wrestling business. Speaking of business, it's picking up. If you're looking to advertise on our program, advertisewithjarrett.com can hook you up. If you're looking for men 25 to 54, we got them. There's a reason you hear so many of the same sponsors week after week after week. It really works. And we would love to go to work for you at advertisewithjarrett.com. The easiest, cheapest, best way to support the show is to check us out on YouTube. It's My World on YouTube.com. As a heads up, in the new year, we're going to be going live, and you don't want to miss the opportunity to know when that's going to happen. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now. Turn on your notifications bell, so when we do go live, you'll get the heads up. And here's a heads up. You can get some great new swag just in time for the holiday season. It can still make it. Hustle over right now to boxofgimmicks.com. We got something for everybody. You saw a lot of the different items flashing throughout the show today that are available for sale. But our YouTube channel has more info as well. My World on YouTube.com. Jeff, this is the last time we'll record before Christmas. What's on the Christmas docket in the Jarrett household this year?
Oh boy, basketball, and Jaren's playing ball, and Cody wrestling, and head out to Oklahoma City, Boomer Sooner. on Wednesday. It's a busy week. It is actually very, very busy week coming up. Conrad, I had a thought there. If we're doing a top 10, I don't know how many people you could do on a Twitter poll, but maybe, I don't know if there's a hashtag JJ or My World Top 10. I don't know. I'll let y'all figure that out. But the My World listeners, what is the top moment? I don't know. I'm just thinking, I didn't know we were doing top 10 next week. That'll be fun to run down.
It will be fun to run down. It's at My World Pod. We're looking for your nominations. What do you think the biggest moments of the year were in professional wrestling? We'll discuss them here on the show at My World Pod. We'll have a post there. You can reply below and we'll take it all in and discuss it. I guess the real question is, Jeff, normally you and I record on a Monday. Next Monday is Christmas Day. So it brings about the question, when are we going to tape next week's episode, Jeff?
I don't know. We need to figure that out sooner rather than later. Wow, you're right.
It's man, this year you just blink and it was over. But I hope that JArrett proves to the world that he's over and gets back on TV. By God, he's been off for 2 months. Let's get those hashtags going. Let's start a little Twitter campaign. We've seen The Last Outlaw put Kenny Omega in a hospital single-handedly. And so much more this year. You don't want to miss it. Jeff, I never know what to expect when we sit down and click record. I didn't think I would get to actually see the agony on your face when Tennessee lost again.
Oh my God.
I can't believe they're going to be.
We were winning the whole damn game.
Don't forget to watch the Tennessee Volunteers and the Meineke Tire Bowl. They're playing this next Thursday at 3 a.m. Western Kentucky University will be there to take on Tennessee in the Meineke Tire Bowl, 3 a.m. Central Time.
Baby, Citrus Bowl.
I don't know what we're doing anymore, but I had a lot of fun talking about some of these gimmick matches. And I think the one I'm most interested to go back and see is the Rat on a Pole.
Okay.
I don't know that my wife would let me see a Rat on a Pole, but I'm going to ask permission. We'll see how it goes. Wish me luck.
I kid you not. We'll take it out here. It will be the most beautiful rat you've ever laid eyes on.
Wow. A 5-star rat.
Bingo.
She's a hell of a hand.
Yep.
All that and more next week on the program. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Seriously, I hope you guys have a great Christmas, and we'll be back before the new year with more of The Last Outlaw right here on My World.
Peace.